Hi guys, today we're going to look at wind speed and how it affects your audio if you want to identify or isolate bird sounds. Let's head over to my screen and we'll get on with it. Here we are in Davinci Resolve, and all the audio was recorded with a Zoom F3 Clippy microphones, and it was recorded in 48 kilohertz with a volume setting of 128. And remember, a Zoom F3 records in 32-bit float, so we can recover clipped audio. When I go out to record bird sounds, I'll only do it in wind speeds of less than 15 miles an hour. If we come over to the first bit of audio, here where my cursor is, the wind speed here ranges from 12 miles an hour up to 15 miles an hour, and then we get a gust of 25 miles an hour. And if you notice, the characteristics of the waves we're seeing here is a big, thick mush of sound. Now if I play that, we can hear birds, we can hear sheep in the distance, we can identify some of the birds as song thrush, blackbird and grey-lag geese, but underlying it all is a muddiness, the low sound of the wind in the foliage of the trees. And if you notice, we can only hear loud sounding birds, blackbirds, thrushes, grey-lag geese. Because of the underlying mush of sound, we won't be able to hear birds like tree creepers, bullfinches, siskins, redpolls, warblers. So in a bird survey, wind speeds of 12 to 15 miles an hour with foliage is going to drown out a lot of the quieter birds. Unless, of course, those birds come and sit right next to the microphone. For our bird surveys, if you live in an area where there's a lot of wind, like I do, many of my recordings will pick up the loud birds in the mid-ground, some in the far ground, but any quieter birds have to be right next to the microphone. And on an average of over 2 hours, hour before and after dusk and dawn, some of them will come close to the microphone. So it does give you an idea of what's there. Now what's it sound like when the wind speed gets above 15 miles an hour? I've moved my playhead up to a section where there's a gust that builds up to around 25 miles an hour. Let's have a listen to that. Okay, so we can just about make up the really loud birds, which were blackbirds and song thrushes, but everything else is gone, it's drowned out, which means it's pointless to record in wind speeds of over 12 to 15 miles an hour. If we have a look at the audio right next to this, the wind speed in this audio is around 6 to 8 miles an hour. And immediately we can see a difference. In the first lot, we cannot pick out the birds from the waveform. In this audio, we can. So if I zoom in, I'll play this. There we are, there's low wind under everything. We can hear a sheep, and then we heard a great spotted woodpecker making a flight call and drumming as it pecks on a tree. It's clearly defined, we can see it, and the sound is not drowned out by the wind, which means wind speeds below 10 miles an hour is much better to record in than over 10 miles an hour. We can clearly identify the birds in the waveform, and that makes it really good for isolating the sounds. Another thing I want to point out to you here, you can see the difference in the waveform, you can see the difference in the wind speeds from the 12 to 15 to 25 mile an hour to the 6 to 8 mile an hour winds. Here we can see all the bird sounds. In this one we can't identify anything. Now I've cut some audio out here already, so this section in the middle, as you can see, has got plenty of bird sounds, but I'm going to delete it. And now we're going to look at clipped audio. If I move the playhead to the next one, I'm going to press play. You usually get clipped audio where the bird has come and landed really close to the microphones. And if you remember, I said we recorded in 32-bit float. That means we can pull down the clipped audio. We'll do that now. Play that again. Okay, I don't know whether you noticed there, but if you wanted to get a woodpecker drumming, you would not be able to get it from that. I'll zoom in a bit more and explain why. There's drumming and another bird singing at the same time. When we recovered the clipped audio, when we bring it down, it also brings down the noise floor. And that means if we can find a section of clipped audio where the birds are not singing over the top of each other, that's going to be perfect for isolating the sound with pretty much no more post-processing involved. Let's have a listen to more clipped audio that's been brought down to see whether we can hear an isolated portion. We have a section here. Let's play that again. There is a chip-chap coming in towards the end of here. Yep, there's a chip-chaff in there. But a lot of it is clean. But it's still not good enough to isolate. Let's go on a bit further. That blackbird sound also has other bird sounds underneath it. Let's listen on. Ooh. This sound here is clean. Let's make a cut. I'm going to delete what's in front of it. Let's check what we got. That wasn't clean, so I'm going to delete that as well. This woodpecker here, I'm going to bump that up a bit. There's a little bit of extra bird sound at the end, but overall that woodpecker is pretty good. Let's move to the end portion. No, there are birds singing over the top of each other all the way through it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to export all these and we'll have a look at them in Izotope RX. Here I've loaded up the first one we looked at, the one with the wind, where it goes from 12 miles an hour to 15 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour. And remember, we could only hear the loud birds, and all the rest was mushy wind sounds. If I adjust this to spectrogram view only, we can see all the bird sounds. There's probably bird sounds there that we couldn't actually hear, but we can see them. If we play some of it, so all that mushy wind sound is this orange down here, across there, and up through. Remember the 25 mile an hour wind? If I bring that over here, if I play that, that's pervading through the whole sound, but we can still see some of the bird sounds in it. We could go through a lot of post-processing to try to isolate those, but if you notice, a lot of these birds are singing over the top of each other. That's why it's better to record in low wind speeds, so we can actually hear them singing over the top of each other more clearly, like we've done in the other audio. So I'll bring one of those in now. Here it is. Here's the woodpecker. Let's play it. Remember I said there was a bird right at the end of the drumming sound, and this is it right here. Can you see my cursor? This little sound there, but overall it's quite good. But now we're looking at this view of this audio. There's also another sound in here, a rhythmic sound that comes in every half second. Let's have another listen to it. Hear it? Sounds like water dripping, and it looks to me it's running all the way through the audio. However, it doesn't seem to affect the overall sound. There is underlying low end in it. Now that we can actually remove. I've made a previous video on isolating bird sounds, and all the techniques that are required are in that. If you want to know how to do that, just go and have a look at that video. Let's bring in another sound. Here, let's play that. Now that sounds pretty good. It's well defined. There's nothing else in it other than some low end sounds, which are down here, and some pervading into the sound. Now that can be cleaned up, and this would be a really good isolated section of audio. Remember, this was from clipped audio. We've brought it down, and it's really well defined. Lovely pattern of the bird sound here. If we cleaned this up, we could use it for spectrogram analysis because the definition is so good. Let's bring in the other piece of audio. This is one again where the birds are overlapping each other. There's some sounds that are almost there. Now we could cut some of these out. That's a beautiful looking sound there. It's quite clean within itself. So if we're doing any further research where we need a fragment of sound and birds in the audio in general are singing over the top of each other, if we brought it into RX, we could identify it, clean it up, cut it out, and use it for our bird sound toolbox. There we are, folks. That's just a general overview of Windspeed bird sounds, isolating bird sounds. If you live in a windy place like me, restrict your recordings to under 15 miles an hour. Then you can identify the bird sounds. And if they're below 10 miles an hour, you can find them in the waveform. Then listen through them, take them into RX if you've got RX to see how clear and defined they are. And remember, if you record in 32-bit float, you can recover clipped audio. And as we've seen in here, the quality of the clipped audio brought down is really, really good for further research into bird sounds if you want to do that with spectrograms. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.